Brothers, sisters, siblings, welcome to Penn's Sunday School starring Penn Gillette. My name is Michael Ludeau. Matt Donnelly, Reddy Rich, Penn and I are broadcasting from our separate homes in Las Vegas. On today's episode, we're going to answer a pile of viewer mail, and we'll talk about my son's plan for a legacy drive to magical Nipton. Here he is, preaching love, Mr. Penn Gillette.
Yeah, I'm preaching love. I'm preaching love like crazy. Like crazy. Still a little tired. Still doing the cameos. If you go to cameo.com, I'll do a message for somebody. I have done some that are messages for the person themselves. Wants a little bit of a pep talk for what they're doing for weight loss or something. I've done some wonderful, people. One person asked me to watch a short video they had done on magic and to critique it. Someone else asked me to comment on something a woman had done and then say at the end, this is going to turn into me formally asking her for a date. So I got to do a whole cameo and then end by saying, and now I won't say his name, but let's say Matt has a formal question to ask.
You're in trouble.
And then went into that. It was it's been really nice. I thought that these cameos were just going to be for charity at first, and then ended up being really fun and good. And I'm keeping doing them. So I've been doing cameos like crazy. A lot of congregation people having me do stuff. One just had me roast a friend of his as a fat ass and unemployed and carried on insulting him, and then said, and then it's an inside joke, sing 7 Angels. You know, the Willie Nelson, Ray Charles song.
Yeah.
Except he spelled it 7 Angles. So I sang my own version of 7 Angles and was able to then turn it back on the person who thought he was making fun of his friend. Your friend is so stupid. So I've been having fun, and I'm doing a lot of them for Father's Day. Father's Day is great. Nice. Because I'm a father, and talk about that. And I always wish them on the morning of Father's Day, may you have vegan French toast. That's always my wish. Vegan French toast with good maple syrup.
Nice.
So that's I've been doing those cameos. I've been liking them. I've been liking them a lot. We talked on Sunday about Look Simple. Turns out that the little thing in the back of my mind was correct, and we did do that on Go Public, our public TV special out of LA, which incidentally won an Emmy in '84. But I don't think it had the bass with it. I think it was done seated and in front of a television with me just commenting on it.
We also talked about the 7 words you couldn't say on TV and how that was just kind of randomly picked. Do you think that was true of when Jesus was writing about the 7 deadly sins? I think he just picked it for the rhythm.
I don't think Jesus is the 7 deadly sins. He just wanted to spell out pale gas, right?
Yeah.
Pale gas, which is pride, avarice, lust, envy, greed, anger, sloth.
Nice.
That's what we remember.
What's the name for that structure?
Well, we have the 7 deadly sins. We have the 7 dwarves, 7 words you can't say on television, 7 basic principles of magic.
Misdirection is my favorite dwarf.
She's the cutest.
Misdirection. Now, what's your son up to?
You know what? He started this a couple of months ago for my birthday. He came in and said, Dad, I drove out to the dry lake bed in celebration of your birthday.
Wow.
What?
He honored you.
He honored me. He now calls this a legacy drive.
Where'd he get that term?
I don't know where he got the term. It's so strange. He came to me a few days ago and went, Emily, my sister just graduated from high school, And as part of a legacy drive in her honor, he wants to drive to Nipton, California.
Where's Nipton?
Just across the state line from here. It's a little tiny town that was built along a train line, but
Train line.
there that could be it. But I think it was 2017. The town was bought to become one of the first marijuana destination towns.
Now I think I'm on to why. It's
Yeah, you guys want to ride along? I can't imagine that's why he chose it. I think it was trains, but he's been talking about it for a week now. I'm going to drive to Nipton, and
he does these drives, needless to say, alone.
Yeah.
So the legacy drive has nothing to do with who it's legacy for.
No, I am trying to talk him into taking me with him to Nipton. And he's like, well, I don't know, Dad.
It's because you want to choose the soundtrack for the drive. That's why he didn't want you to go.
That could be it.
You're choosing the music. He's out.
Yeah. That could be it.
Well, if Godot plays music, anyone is out.
Yeah.
What does your son listen to for music?
He likes Maroon 5. But other than that, it's sex based. You know what I mean? Anyone that's a beautiful girl, he really likes.
There you go.
So, he's a big Taylor Swift fan, and he's in that respect become kind of teenagery. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. And Taylor Swift makes some catchy tunes.
Yeah,
it's not all sex based.
For many years he didn't have much interest in it, and now he's at least picking songs for what the girls who sing them look like. That's a big step.
I believe that growing up, if I grew up in a household with you, I would have no interest in music.
That could be.
I believe you would beat that right out of me.
Yeah.
So is he going to do a legacy drive? What other legacy drive? How far is it to the place?
Nipton's probably an hour each direction.
Oh, so not a big deal.
Not a big deal. But also he's never driven into California, and he's decided driving across the state line is a big deal. And so that's what he's really planning on doing for his sister's graduation in honor.
When Teller and I were touring in our little Datsun 210 station wagon all over the country, whenever we would say welcome to a state, we would always shake hands and welcome each other.
That's a fine. There you go.
That's fun.
Yeah. And my family tries to keep that up. But because our family often has one person sulking, it's not as successful.
3 out of 4 are cheery.
Well, that's the best. That's the dream. 3 out of 4 cheery is the dream.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what else is going on? Let's go to some mail. Leif Nordling explained all of Luxembourg's COVID-19 policies. And Ready Rich said he was hoping that he would argue that that is to say Leif, is the most famous person from Luxembourg, as opposed to David Goldrake. And he answered that he wasn't going to argue that, but if it helps, he never heard of David Goldrake till I mentioned it. Now, the fact that the most famous person in Luxembourg would not be heard of by someone in Luxembourg does not negate Goldrake's
Fame.
claim at all. And then Dr. Paul, we'll get into this, Colkin. I'm a physician and a libertarian. In discussing the risk of coronavirus exposure versus the need to participate in recent protests around the country, you made the analogy of a man running into a burning building, which is unsafe, but doing so because his child was in that building. Consider, why do governments or officials get to decide what constitutes a child in a building for the citizenry? Why can't people decide to take the risk of coronavirus exposure for this cause, but not for other causes that may be dear to their hearts, such as keeping a business alive? I'm not arguing against protest, but rather for consistency. If we are now okay with people assuming risk for a cause they find important enough, then that is that. No officials or social leaders have a right to tell people what causes meet muster. Why do governments or officials get to decide what constitutes a child in a building for the citizenry? Why can't people decide to take on the risk of coronavirus exposure for a cause, but not for other causes that may be dear to their hearts, such as keeping a business alive? And then it says the same thing again because he cut and pasted it 3 times. This is the problem. The problem is very, very simply, and Dr. Greger talked about this so clearly. You are not worried about yourself. You're worried about others. And when you gather, it's possible that you are a asymptomatic spreader and that you are in that crowd and making other people sick. So it becomes an incredibly difficult question. And for someone to make a comment on Black Lives Matter being important enough to go out and put yourself and others in jeopardy is real tricky. And I do not have the answer. And my heart is definitely with him and with the other side. You know, I have a good friend who's very famous, who has been on TV a lot, talking about people staying in and locking down. And his daughter was at the protests in New York.
Right.
I don't know how to deal with this. It does seem like the protests are, by many measurable ways, successful. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
There is change happening.
I mean, and that goes for everything. Like the people who protested for reopening the economy also were largely successful. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Protesting is working, no matter what you're protesting for.
I don't know. I would like, my question is always, can this problem be solved with more freedom as opposed to less freedom? And I don't know on this one. I really don't know. My hardcore libertarian beliefs, which my son still shares, are being shaken to the core. I don't know what your responsibility is to the other people around you. And that is a sincere don't know. I'm not doing a, Socratic questioning.
Yeah, it seems to me that what we do see is that people are very somewhat poor at being kind to people near them. At least a certain percentage of people seem to be unkind in the way they want to handle things. So,
yeah, although, the protests are by any measure overwhelmingly peaceful.
No, that's.
I'd say
and
from the thinking about things from a libertarian perspective, I think what has been hardest to examine for me with all of these issues of late is how untethered my individual freedom is to your freedom. It just seems like with the pandemic and stuff that my freedom certainly has a large impact on other people's freedom. Very, very small choices I do can impact some others. And that's not, and again, that's with the equal amount of questioning that you're laying out. Every time I go out to do something, how much am I making a decision for my entire family? How much am I making a decision for my neighbors? And is that my freedom that we're talking about in that instance, or is it my
especially because you have a pod with your neighbors, don't you?
Yeah, because our children were kind of like basically they like a brick wall means nothing to our children, and we're very close with them, and so it was very clear early on that we were kind of in for a penny and for a pound with our next door neighbors, and then they had someone elderly with them, and same with a child across the street. We kept it from going to each other's houses, but playing outside was something that was kind of impossible to curtail. And they're dealing with a major health situation over there as well. So yeah, so when I go out with my individual freedom or my individual perception of masks and where I do and don't need to wear them, I'm often thinking about, but if I have to come home and answer to other people about it.
Well, what we fall down on is government force.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees that you need to be responsible for others, but no one's going to agree on how much government force. During the 1917 flu, there were groups that were anti-mask people that refused to have masks around.
And again, those groups were also very successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also hard because when we do point to a lack of cogent leadership at the top aren't we then also kind of, we do participate in elections, we do have a democracy, and aren't we asking those people to be responsible for having the right conversations?
Well, that is one of the reasons these things are coming up, I believe. I believe if we had a leader who was concerned with the people or expressed some concern with the people,
Yeah.
that I can imagine a speech that says essentially, we don't want to force people to do this, this, and this, but remember, we're all responsible to each other. Let's try to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
You realize we haven't had anybody say that.
No. I mean, that's how much let
that sink in. No one has said that. Can you imagine any other president in history that wouldn't have given a serious, considered speech that said, listen, we don't know. We don't know what's safe or what's not safe right now.
Yeah.
Here's our best guess, and let's try to do this. And if you disagree and want to go out without a mask and make a statement, you got to do that. But this is what we think right now.
Yeah.
This is what most people think. And not just, saying random stuff to try to get reelected.
There's one of the things that's really hard to explain to people who are young, where they maybe 9/11 wasn't a part of their experience. We really didn't have a lot of faith in George W. Bush at the time. And what's crazier is to explain how much of a relief Rudy Giuliani was to the national public, which is really strange to look back on. But like when George Bush spoke, he did try to say the things that you're talking about, but he did not necessarily inspire a confidence in people that maybe was also equally political as it was now, but just under different terms. But when Rudy Giuliani was speaking as a police person, it was, as mayor of New York, it was like consoling to see a strong leader in that position, and his popularity was through the roof. That's so strange to look back on now, because now Rudy Giuliani is not thought of that way, and George W. Bush is getting quite a revisionist past.
I don't even know if we need a strong leader, and I don't even know if it needs to be president.
Right.
We just need someone empathetic that has the megaphone. But anybody that had the megaphone, Trump would take.
That's it. It was the first person to erupt in that Giuliani role was Dr. Fauci, the first person to speak. That we're like, oh, good, this person seems to have a heart and a brain.
But he was stomped on.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just think that it's hard to imagine another president not having someone doing that. Which brings up Michael Crane. He objected to PSS continuing to focus on Trump. I think we have a much lower focus on Trump than everybody else. But nobody disagrees. Can we move the conversation further? What about members of Congress, members of the cabinet, the other people behind the man that I believe should also be held responsible? Or let's preach the message we wish the president should. I think continuing to cast negative comments or any comments is giving the president the attention he likes and is just promoting him. I agree. I guess I feel like preaching love is being tainted by opinions in politics. And then Ready Rich answers, I pushed to move away from Trump in 2017, which we did for a long time. I'm very much aware of playing into shock jock pro wrestling signal boosting. I don't think responding to every daily Twitter scandal is useful. That said, I think it's apropos in light of current events, especially the context of how it's affecting Penn's home life. Not that any of us have any say what Penn wants to talk about his weekly outlet. That's as I said, Al Franken gave me a call, and it was very hard not to talk about Trump. And it's also listening to the Rabbit Hole podcast on the New York Times. It's very hard to not tie everything to that. I mean, we have a president who successfully brings himself into the middle of everything.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like, it is, we should say to our listeners that we, off air and on air, like, it is our goal to talk about him the least amount as possible. It really is. Like, when we sit down and do an outline, we are trying not to. This is a person who insists on being the first and last thing people think about before they all go to bed at night, like no one else we've ever had in our lives. Yeah. And believe me, we don't. A pandemic has made sure that we have no shows, so we have no show stories. You know, we're not going fucking anywhere with our families. You know, like we really.
So will let me go on a legacy drive with it.
I mean, like we are really digging in to provide our hours of content every week. Believe me, we want to talk about the least amount as possible. There's just so little else going on. Movies are done, sports are done. You know, we're not. You know, it's really hard to. You know, this person has a megaphone like no one's ever had in history.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I want to talk about entertainment and movies and such. First? But first, I'm going to do some ad spots.
Hey, Matt, Godot is going to do a very nice segue to an ad right here.
Fantastic, guys. Guys, keep your eyes open. Godot is about to make a fantastically smooth move. Watch and learn.
Has your morning or evening routine changed recently? Has that impacted your oral care? What things, foods, games, household games being delivered to your door? But what is so good is getting the Quip toothbrush, dental care, oral care delivered to your house. How much do we love that?
Very much.
Quip, I love using an electric toothbrush. I love having it stick to the wall, which Godot's the expert on.
Yep.
Let's talk about brushing our teeth. 74% of us use old, worn-out bristles that are ineffective, and even more people forget to floss daily. That's not people here.
No.
Because of Quip. Good health starts with good habits. Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials you need to brush and floss better. The Quip electric toothbrush is timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide a dentist's recommended 2-minute routine. There's even a sized-down version designed for children. Paired with Quip's anti-cavity toothpaste in mint or watermelon, you get all the ingredients teeth actually need and none that they don't. Quip also has an eco-friendly refillable floss with a dispenser you keep for life, an expanding string that helps clean in between. Quip brush head toothbrush, toothpaste, and floss refills are automatically delivered on a dentist recommended schedule. It's just so great. And if you go to getquip.com/Penn, right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/Penn. That's
GetQuip.com/PENN.
Quip, the good habits company. Yeah, I love those vibrations. I love how clean my teeth feel. They feel wonderfully clean after using the Quip, and I really like that so much. Now, if you're like most people, you almost never go to the doctor. Maybe when you're sick or hurt, but that's it. Finally, there's a practical and affordable way you can take control of your health long-term and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. SteadyMD is your personal doctor online. It's telehealth done right. You start by taking a quiz to get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your lifestyle and your health needs. Next, you have a 1-hour appointment with your doctor to start a real relationship. After that, your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. Unlike other services, this isn't a random doctor on call. Each SteadyMD doctor has a limited number of patients, so they have time to listen and give you personal attention you deserve. That is so amazing.
Yeah.
That's what you need. It also covers all sorts of stuff. Paleo, gluten-free, keto, Whole30, vegetarian, running, functional fitness, high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, thyroid issues, obesity, asthma. They have the experts on all that stuff just waiting for you. No waiting room, no germs, prescriptions sent to your home or local pharmacy, all your medical records in one place. You get unlimited access to your doctor for only $99 per month. That's amazing.
Right.
No additional visit fees or copays. SteadyMD will even help you understand most out of your health insurance, but insurance is not required. SteadyMD is now accepting members of all ages in all 50 states. Go to steadymd.com/Penn to take the free quiz and see which doctor is a perfect fit for you. steadymd.com/Penn. There's no risk and no long-term commitment to get started. That's steadymd.com/Penn. And we thank them so much for sponsoring this podcast. STADYMD.com/Penn.
PENN.
Oh, man.
You were so
We're a
close,
mess.
Matt. You got almost everything right there. I watch really dismal detective shows.
Yeah.
And last night, when the family was involved in other stuff, making sure I wouldn't sleep, that was the goal. I went to watch something, and I pulled up this Netflix serial killer, two fathers who are both suspects.
Is this Throw Mama from the Train?
Something like that. Both unsubs. And
is it a documentary or a film?
a film. I mean, a TV series.
Okay.
And they all had teenage children, and they were having discussions with them. And I sat there filled with angst over how their teenagers were doing. I was filled with empathy and compassion for the people who died. They came to a house to explain to the mother that her daughter had been killed by this serial killer. And the actor was phenomenal and wailed and cried and suffered in a very convincing way that pulled at my heartstrings perfectly. And I was sitting there watching, and I just said, fuck it. I'm turning it off. There's too much video of African Americans being killed by police. There's too much video of people suffering in emergency rooms. I have already know a few people who've died of this virus. I've seen the pain of my children being in lockdown, and I just do not fucking need this.
Wow.
And right in the middle of an episode, I just stopped. And Teller had recommended this show to me. And Teller said, which he's never said, he never says this. He said, I am almost sure you're going to love this.
Oh.
And he recommended an Ethan Hawke which I always think is a superhero, but it's actually an actor. Ethan Hawke documentary called Seymour, an Introduction. It is a documentary that I'm halfway through about the this piano virtuoso who quit to become a teacher. And I guess it's going to tie with how he helped Ethan Hawke with his stage fright. And it is him talking with passion about the phrasing of Schubert. He talks about Glenn Gould and how much Bach came through and how much Glenn Gould came through. It shows him making his bed in the morning. It shows a really, really good person with a passion, an absolute passion for music, in a way that hearing Schubert makes him cry. And I watched this, as I said, the first half of it, and I just said, this is what I want to think about. I want to think about this. And also, there is a big problem in our country that for every one Serpico, we make 2,000 Dirty Harrys. We have this view that police officers are stopping rapes, stopping kidnapping, and catching killers before they kill again. You know intellectually that a police officer is very lucky to make one felony arrest a year. And if a police officer makes 2 felony arrests a year, they are Police Officer of the Year. What they're dealing with is domestic abuse, traffic stops, shoplifting, and what they're dealing with mostly is mental illness. And we have this view that police officers are in danger, which they are, but they're not in danger as much as store clerks or cab drivers. There's a lot of jobs that are dangerous, and they are not predominantly saving us from other violent people. And I don't know how I feel about how police should be dealt with in this country. I don't know. I read the big article in the Times about what defunding the police means. I read what Joe Biden said. I read what Cameos said, and I have thoughts, but not any that are valuable to anyone else. I'm still thinking about them. What I do think is maybe I've got to stop filling my head with that shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I've got to stop thinking that there are serial killers killing teenage girls and police officers chasing them that have to bend the rules. Because that just doesn't come up. I should think about how real police officers are dealing with a person who tries to pass a counterfeit 20 at a convenience store.
Yeah.
How that's dealt with.
Yeah.
But I am not talking at all about society. But famously, Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. And one of the things was I wanted people to be doing less anger and angst on Facebook. So I got the fuck off Facebook.
And you regret it, though, yeah?
Greatest thing I ever did.
I say that out loud because I laugh all the time, is that I don't know a single person who's regretted getting off of Facebook. I don't know anyone who's like, shoot.
How do you know what your friends are having for lunch now?
That's the best part of it, though.
Yeah.
You wrote the most innocuous thing, and that's the cherry.
Yeah, the worst thing is, how do you know a wording mistake that someone you love made in their political position that you need to correct?
How do I know that I need to get angry about someone I went to high school with's political opinions, even though if I ran into them in the grocery store, we'd have 1 2-minute conversation at best between us, and otherwise we'd never would have thought about each other ever again.
The truth is, you would not recognize that person.
Yeah, that's true too.
You'd walk by them in a supermarket, and that would be it.
I think I know that guy. And keep going.
Unless you were wearing a T-shirt that said, "I'm Matt Donnelly from New Jersey."
Well, I wear a lot of my own merch, so that's probably I'm probably.
But your own merch is not recognizable. Not like Scoop.
I'm wearing my own shirt right now.
Does it say Matt Donnelly anywhere on it?
No, it just what says Matt and Mattingly on it.
Okay, that wouldn't be enough.
But we're mostly talking about Pinker here, right?
Yeah.
That there's just so much less violence here. It's not even really about the police at that level.
Right. So the point is, when they're talking about giving less money to police forces, they're saying because things are getting better and the stuff that we have to deal with, you may not need riot gear for most of the time.
Right.
What you may need is compassion and mental health skills.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder what happens if you show up at a domestic dispute and the people in the dispute know that you have no weapons.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't know.
I don't know either. Even I remember when the pandemic first started, I was encouraged to get a gun, and I was like, me starting off now with a gun is not any kind of use of force that you want to see.
People very close to me that I love dearly were saying, yeah, we all got to get guns. And it was like, what are you talking about?
And I was thinking,
by the way, if someone is stealing food in my house, I'm not going to shoot them. I'll tell you that right now. So you'll be over in about an hour to get my peanut butter and groats.
Yeah, pick me up on the way, Matt.
Joke's on you out there if you stole Penn's groats. That's no, I mean, because I walked through it for me, just personally, I'm fine that people own guns. But me, best case scenario, someone does break into my house. They do have a gun. They want to kill someone. I kill them with a gun. Everything about what we've been taught is that is fantastic. That is heroic. That is what you have it for. I'm telling you that I have a terrible life after that. You
don't have another moment of happiness.
No, that is trauma that I will never live down.
And we also know that police officers never discharge their weapons.
Yeah.
And if somebody shoots someone to death on a police force, they are put in a desk job forever because they're ruined.
Yeah.
That stat about never discharging during your entire career is amazing.
Yeah.
The majority don't.
Yeah.
And that includes nasal discharge.
Do it in your arm.
Yeah. So,
But I just, and I don't, again, it's just because I know the kind of mail we get, I don't want to, I'm saying it's a personal choice. And I think that like we are taught to find that activity heroic, and we don't often think through the personal trauma of actually engaging with that kind of stuff. Regardless, even when you're completely 100% in the right, it's a dire situation for you.
if someone is going to kill me and I pull a gun and kill them, I believe my life is over whichever way that goes.
Yeah.
My family, it's a different issue. I don't know how that goes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't know. And I know that a lot of people, we have, and we can name them, but we won't. We have friends who have guns in their house for that explicit purpose. I'm going to protect my house, my family. And, I don't know. I don't know what the costs are of using a gun. I know that I've had a gun pointed at me and a couple times, and then I really, really didn't like it. But if I'd had a gun, would I have shot those people? I might have, and I would have regretted it.
Yeah.
My life would not be as good as it is now. But anyway, to be the change I want to see, I believe that social media encourages outrage. And if you sit on your phone for hours, going through Facebook, going through Twitter, going through the news, talking about Trump, you end up with a less happy, balanced view of the world.
Yeah.
I also think if you flop down on your couch and watch a deeply troubled, alcoholic police character chasing down a giggling, insane perpetrator who is killing teenage girls, and you see everybody suffering from that, you have a different view of police that is accurate.
Right.
On both sides. I want the view of police that is the guy who pulls me over. It was reasonable. Now, reasonable because I'm white, and that's something we need to fix. Let me add that in really quick.
Sure.
But that's the view I want to have. And if I am going to have a view of police, then I should get it from nonfiction, from news. But I also want to say that my hygiene is very good. And I don't know if people think worse of me for this, but I've not seen the video of Floyd dying.
Right.
I've not seen the video of the planes hitting on 9/11.
Yeah.
I've not seen the video of the Atlanta shooting. I read about it, try to make my decision, but I don't want that in there because my monkey brain will think that's happening to one of 300 people. We handle about 300 people in our heads. And when you see video, your monkey brain thinks this happened statistically at a different level than it really does. So I'm taking the other step now. I don't know if I'll stick to this. It's not a full step, but I'm off FaceTime. I answer specific Twitter questions. I really do. When you get a Twitter answer from me, it really is from me. That's not jive. Michelle goes through and finds anything that I should answer, but not the stuff that's just barraging at me. When someone asks a question, I answer. And if you've gotten an answer from me on Twitter, that is typed by me. I give you my word. But I don't engage with Twitter. I don't get outraged from it. I don't see what so-and-so is saying.
That's the other thing that people have started copping to, which is that if you have been outraged at reading responses from strangers on Twitter or other mediums, how many of them are actual people?
Right.
I know for me, like I'm something that I'm coming to grips with. For me, I have to cop to spending too much. If I get caught spending too much time on Twitter, I find a reason to be outraged, and then therefore I'm absolutely being manipulated by bots. That I'm being manipulated by specific efforts. Yeah,
you are, and you're arguing with that. And I just think that that time that I would spend on Facebook. I can call. I just found the greatest thing in the world. I got to talk about this. So,
what a turn! We should.
So I do
start over.
I do my Sam Harris meditation, right?
Yeah.
And I had just done whatever it was. I'd hit 600 days. And on usually 100 kind of thing, I read a little thank you note to Sam. And I told him I was having real trouble with duality and having no head. Just seeing myself doing this. So he gave me this course that was not his. It's within the Waking Up app. But instead of doing the daily Sam Harris, I now do this other one. One course that a friend of his did. And it talked very much about your face and your expressions when you're talking are not part of the conversation. What you really are during a conversation is your space for the other people. Okay? So when I'm talking to you, Matt, we're sitting out, just the two of us, and I'm looking at you, I have no sense of my own face at all. None.
Right.
I can't see it. Maybe see my nose if I look cross-eyed, but I can't see my face. So what really is in my consciousness is not my face, but actually a place for your face, a place for you that you enter my consciousness. A really beautiful idea.
Wow.
And I realize that whenever I do Zoom, I have it set on gallery view, and it automatically shows my face, as does FaceTime. So when I'm talking to you right now, while I'm looking at you, Matt, I also see my face and I identify with that. And all of a sudden, that seemed to me crazy. So Teller and I do our meetings over Zoom, sort of in the upper right-hand corner, and hit a button called Don't Show Self.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden, my screen became Teller. And it was a sea change. It was enormous. And our work improved tremendously because I wasn't constantly being reminded of something that does not exist, which is seeing my own reaction. And I just was able to look at Teller and let him inhabit my space. I did another Zoom meeting and tried to do that. And it was really good. I'm looking at other people and paying attention to them. It was really, really beautiful. And you would think that's nothing. You would think that's absolutely nothing, but it is huge. So in that time I would be watching Facebook or doing Twitter. I want to do Zoom calls with people without my face there and give them space in my head, space in my consciousness. And it's kind of great. I just did, Helder, whatever his name is, at the Geffen.
Yeah.
Just did this, The Present, which is a play he's doing virtually. And I watched that. And boy, there's problems with doing magic over Zoom. And I watched Helder fight with them. A couple of very clever things. Although Helder does the whole thing about how this is not my first time in quarantine. I was in quarantine when I got hit by a car and was in a coma for 3 days and then had to be home with my grandfather resting and getting better for a few months before I go back to school. I was in quarantine. No, you weren't, you stupid motherfucker. You were convalescing. Convalescing is a different word than quarantine. And just because you think you can tie your personal life into what's happening now by using the wrong word, I'm not going to let you. If he called it, I convalesced. No, but the first time I've been locked in my house would be fine.
Right.
But just don't use the exact wrong word. Also, he talks about his relationship with his grandfather and how important that was to him, and then does card tricks. Could I just say something to all magicians who may listen? Your magic tricks are not about life and death. They're not about people who have cancer. They're not about your mother or your grandfather or a lovely neighbor passing away. That is not the magician's job. That's the job of the clergy. That's the job of the dramatist. That's the job of the novelist. Mm-hmm. Maybe, if you're doing video games, dealing with life and death is a real thing. Because you're bang, bang, bang. Oh, I'm dying. You can deal with that idea. In drama, you can deal with that idea. In music, you can deal with that idea. But listen to me, you stupid motherfucker. You are doing card tricks. Card tricks are not about your dead grandfather. A vanish of a woman out of a box is not about your grandmother having cancer. Floating in the air is not about your son having cancer. Being able to read something written on a piece of paper that someone burned is not about, can we maybe communicate with the dead? Picking out a letter to read, finding what that letter is, and reading it is not about a connection with someone you haven't touched that way in a really long time. It's about motherfucking sleight of hand and lying. Your subjects of magic are trickery, how we ascertain truth. Those are built in. Those are really, really good. Those are like saying music is about dance. Yes, all music is about dance. All magic is about trickery.
Okay.
Music can also deal with other things, and so can magic. Occasionally, you can have a story you want to tell, but you don't say, I was convalescing. My grandfather and I started rediscovering our relationship. Now open the deck of cards I sent you. My granddad liked to play cards. Okay.
He had a heart.
Exactly. My grandfather had a heart, and so do you. 4 of hearts, boom. Isn't that a heavy trick about love and family? No. Anyway, it's a good show. But the subject of the patter leaves a little to be desired. If he had done that, here's a neat trick. I would have loved it.
Oh, man. Helen Coughlin, right? Like that's
yeah.
That's always who I go to for Fula stuff. Like she is on one end of the spectrum, and Helen Coughlin's like, you ever see a pipe go through a thing of milk? It's done. Figure it out. There's no like when I was a kid, my dad made me drink milk. There's none of that. None of it.
No.
It is always just, and so whenever I'm thinking about a trick or writing a trick or whatever, you're kind of she has to be one filter I put it through.
Sure, you got to put it through that filter.
Yeah.
And you got to be very careful. I mean, I loved Eugene Berger.
Right.
Eugene Berger, 1-on-1, 1-on-3, 1-on-4, close-up magic, was a fabulous Chicago magician. I loved him.
Yeah.
Adored him. I loved him as a person, loved him as a magician. But we're going to rip this thread up. And that thread is like the connection we have with people who've passed. No, it's not. It's a fucking thread. Now, one point, a director said to me, a director who I believe was, what's that? Eugene Berger. There you go.
All of his books.
A director who I felt told no stories and was just a art director.
Yeah.
Once told me over lunch that he believed that stories were the most important part of movies. It didn't matter what they look like. And when he told me that, looking in my face, I didn't know if he was fucking with me. So everybody that's listening and going, wait a minute, Penn Jillette is saying don't give magic tricks arbitrary patter. Don't talk about stories in your magic tricks. Just do the fucking trick. How crazy is he? Doesn't he realize that Eugene Berger and Helder are not the best examples of that, but rather the very person talking is the asshole who does that more than anybody? Very aware of that.
Why does that U.S. flag vanish?
Yeah, exactly. Very aware that not Taylor, me. I fuck this up all the time. I try to bring in heavy stuff. Sometimes I try to do it as a wink and an eye roll that this really doesn't tie in. It really is an overextended metaphor. I'll give myself credit for that. And I don't often talk about death or relatives in the tricks, but I do try to make them heavy. I believe you can make magic tricks heavy, but try to stick with the plot that the tricks tell you. And also, I believe that musicians have X amount of death and familial love that they can deal with per capita for musicians. They're doing fine. Playwrights have an amount that they can deal with. They're doing fine. Novelists have an amount they can deal with. They're doing fine. Clergy and spiritual advisors, they have an amount they're doing fine. Magicians, we've used up ours. We have 2 shows working on the Las Vegas Strip, 2, that talk about a family member having cancer. 2 shows. Garth Brooks, no mention of any family member having cancer. Tom Jones, no mention of any family member having cancer. Celine Dion, Rod Stewart, no mentions of cancer. All the Cirque du Soleil shows together, no mentions of cancer.
Although one of the clowns does look like a tumor.
That's true. All the, how do you put those together? The absinthe and crack and
Spiegelworld shows.
Spiegelworld shows, no mentions of cancer.
No.
I'm just saying that if you want to do a cancer magic show, that niche has been taken. If you want to grow your beard down to your waist, wear sunglasses, and play blues, ZZ Top got there first. I'm sorry. Maybe you would do it better, but they're there first, right? If you want to write stuff about people in New York taking drugs, Lou Reed is there.
Yeah.
He's got you covered. If you want to write about cars in New Jersey, Springsteen's got you covered.
Yeah.
If you're a magician and you want to do some cancer material, you're better off growing a long beard, putting on sunglasses, and being the ZZ Top of magic. That's my advice.
What about Guns N' Roses?
What about Guns N' Roses? We had the Stones. Guns N' Roses were there after the Stones. Maybe we needed younger Stones.
Right.
I mean, maybe I could make the argument for Guns N' Roses of saying we needed some old people doing this kind of rock and roll who weren't actually elderly.
I think you need to change the tense on that.
We needed.
We still have the Stones.
We do, but we have the Stones as elderly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's somebody that wants to start me up with someone under 75.
But we barely still have Guns N' Roses.
That's true. What are Guns N' Roses doing now? Didn't they have Buckethead playing with them for a while?
Yes.
I think they finally found the right amount of zeros on checks to have the regular band back together again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they're going out on a tour? No, they can't. It's
No one's doing anything. I meant this is all pre-COVID.
Here's a great comment from the chat.
What's that?
If you hate cancer magic shows, for God's sake, start writing cancer magic shows.
Well, yes, the Rostalk Manifesto turned back against me. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe that's what I should absolutely do. No doubt about it. But yeah, Guns N' Roses. You know, we met Guns N' Roses. You know, it turned out that Slash came on a couple of our shows, and I absolutely love Slash. The first time I met them was not as pleasant as my later relationships with Slash. We went to do the MTV Awards in L.A., big event with Aerosmith and Run DMC. We were in the Run DMC videos then. So we went with Run DMC and Public Enemy and stuff. And Aerosmith was there and Guns N' Roses was there. It was their first big MTV Awards. And we got there and we were told during our sound check that there was this band Guns N' Roses, which I'd heard of but didn't know well. And they were real big fans of ours and they really wanted to meet us. And would we come and meet them? Well, first of all, we said, sure, bring them out here. We'd be happy to meet them. They said, no, they'd like you to come back to their dressing room. We said, okay, we'll go back there. Now, the dressing room was set up so that Aerosmith and Run DMC were right near the stage. Because, there's a pecking order in dressing rooms. I also want to add that our dressing room was very near the stage. But that's because we had a rabbit. But that's another whole story. So we were taken through the catacombs of wherever this big LA theater was for a long way by their manager. We arrived at the Guns N' Roses dressing room, and every one of them, every member of Guns N' Roses was unconscious. And the manager said, guys, you wanted to meet Penn and Teller? Here they are.
Guys, just a
one
reminder,
of them
you wanted this to happen.
Half opened his eyes and went, oh, yeah. We said, well, nice to meet you. And we went back on stage. The long walk. But it turns out that Slash is a wonderful guy, and we worked with him later, and he was fabulous. He did Sin City Spectacular, and we just loved him. Just loved him. And I bumped into him several times, and he's a fabulous fellow. Okay, well, I think that I'm going to be watching. Oh, I also watched a little bit of the documentary on Laurel Canyon.
Okay. Oh, the rock documentary.
Yeah. Why not see Joni Mitchell and Buffalo Springfield?
That's a good.
They're not chasing serial killers. Mm-mm. They're not breaking the rules and pulling guns on people. They may distort very much my feeling of how guitars should be tuned, but they're not going to distort my view of policing in America.
That's a good doc.
Have you watched the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty great. I'm enjoying it very much so far. Very much. I especially like it is such an important reminder to see people getting old.
Yes. Yeah.
I love seeing the, 19-year-old photographer now as an adult.
Yeah.
An older adult. It was really, really, really wonderful. So I think that covers all of that. We hit a lot of viewer mail. And that was Penn Sunday School.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Cha-cha-cha. You become naked. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I trust Teller on this. Seymour, an introduction by Ethan Hawke. Might want to check it out. It looks like it's going to be crazy good. And if you want hippy-dippy bullshit, Laurel Canyon's hard to beat. We love you. We really do.